DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Who is 2019 NBA MVP? Now we're at the end of the season. I'm recording this actually the Sunday before the season ends. I'm putting the video out on Friday right before the NBA playoffs begin. So there's a couple games that's going to get played after my recording of this video, but I think everybody pretty much has their answer to this point, even though this one's going to come down to the wire. This is probably the closest MVP debate that I've seen in a long time. Other years there have been, that's not to say that there haven't been years where somebody won that I didn't think should have won, where somebody got, I guess you could say, snubbed, or they just weren't chosen because they weren't the storyline. They weren't the big story of the season. One prime example that I think of is in 2011 when Derrick Rose won the MVP. I don't believe he was the most valuable player that year. He was the biggest story. He was, the media had attached themselves to the Derrick Rose story. There was some LeBron James backlash because that was the season, his first season in Miami with the Heat. Dwayne Wade was great that year and LeBron was great, but they were on the same team, so people kind of could use that as a excuse. You know, they cannibalized each other. Dwight Howard had a great season that year. He could have won MVP. I think all three of them were better than Derrick Rose that season. And then they get to the playoffs and the Heat kicked the Bulls' ass. But anyway, that's a completely different story. There was another year when Karl Malone won MVP over Michael Jordan, and people said it was just Michael Jordan. It was like Jordan hangover. People were tired of giving Jordan the MVP, so they gave the MVP to Karl Malone. And then the Utah Jazz and the Chicago Bulls met in the NBA Finals, and we know how that turned out. And that happened 2 years in a row. They met in the finals, and we know how that one turned out with Jordan winning both times. But anyway, this is I'm trying to think of another year where there was really, like, amongst the fans, amongst the media, the audience of people that were watching, like, who is the MVP? Almost every year that I can think of has been like one dominant person that's been the storyline. Even if they weren't the best player, they were the storyline, so people just wanted to give them MVP. Like Steve Nash won it twice, when I think Kobe and or Shaq could have won MVP either of those 2 years. But again, that was for Shaq's first year in Miami, in the year that Kobe averaged like 36, 37 points per game, where other guys could have been MVP, but because a certain guy was a dominant story all season, you pretty much knew they were going to win, and that's what happened. But this year, we've had two guys who've both been the dominant story, both been being talked about. They've done things in different ways. They're in different conferences, and this is and they have very different playing styles, and their teams are structured actually kind of similar to each other, or they, what's the word I'm looking for? They orbit, the team orbits around this one individual player, which usually happens with any player that's in contention for an MVP award. But they play completely different styles. They play actually almost the exact opposites of each other, offensively at least. And we know these two players, in case you were confused, are James Harden of the Houston Rockets and Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka the Greek Freak of the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, James Harden, first of all, let's talk about James Harden. He has set all kinds of offensive statistical records this season, or matched many statistical records, or he's just been amazing offensively. I think we can all agree to that. Whether or not, I'm not arguing whether or not his playing style is good or fun to watch or interesting, or that it's good for basketball or any of that, because it really doesn't matter. The bottom line, y'all know me, talking about work on your game is about you do the work, you perform, you produce results. James Harden is producing results. Offensively, the result is put the ball in the basket. James Harden is putting the ball in the basket better than anybody since. The only people who've done it at this level for a whole season: Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and Kobe. That's it. Now James Harden. So, I mean, you can't argue with that. The guy's putting the ball in the damn basket. He's making these step-back threes, set a record for making step-back threes. If it wasn't for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, he would have the new NBA record for actually making threes in the season. He's getting to the foul line damn near 10 times a game, maybe more than 10 times a game. Isolation, one-on-one. I don't know if there's any player in the league who you could just put on James Harden for a whole game who can slow this guy down. This guy is as close to unstoppable offensively as anybody we've seen for at least since the year that Kobe averaged 37 or whatever Kobe averaged that year in LA. There's been nobody close to him offensively since that year. And before that, it was Jordan 20 years earlier. In like the late 80s, Jordan averaged 37 one year and 35 the year after that. So James Harden offensively, nobody can say that this guy isn't doing amazing things statistically. Again, now you can argue about the aesthetics of it, but statistically the guy's been great. The Houston Rockets started off the season kind of rocky. They had a losing record at one point. It was like, are the Rockets even going to make the playoffs? Then Chris Paul got hurt, and then James Harden just turned it on, and he started dominating, and he scored 50 points like how many times? Like 8, 9, 10 times this year. 60 points a couple times. He's getting 50-point triple doubles. It's amazing what he's doing offensively, statistically. If you just look at the stats, what he's doing is amazing. Hardly anybody can guard this guy one-on-one. He is as close to unstoppable as I already said. And the Rockets are playing pretty well. I think they're the number 3 or 4. As of this recording, they're either number 3 or 4 seed in the Western Conference, and that's probably where they're going to end up, with home court at least in the first round of the playoffs. What they're going to do in the playoffs, we don't know, and we know that the MVP awards are regular season awards, so it doesn't even matter. Now, on the other side of things, now that we laid out who our candidates are, James Harden, another guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, a.k.a. the Greek Freak. Now, I wanted the Greek Freak. I'm going to tell you right now up front, I wanted him to win MVP this year. I wanted him to get close to winning it last year. He wasn't really that close to last year, but this year, he's been great. The Milwaukee Bucks got a new coach in Budenholzer. They built their whole offense around Giannis, the way that he plays. So he, being this, what is he, 7 feet tall, and as strong and ripped as he is, he can dominate people in the paint. He's basically Shaquille O'Neal, but instead of being a center, he's like I don't even know what position you say Giannis is. He's not a center like back to the basket like Shaq, but once he gets around that rim, he can dunk on whoever he wants and nobody can stop him, similar to Shaq. They put shooters all around him, guys who can hit that outside shots, even the big guys, with a guy like Brook Lopez and Mirotic and Thon Maker before they traded him off the team. And they have been great. The Milwaukee Bucks have actually had more team success than the Houston Rockets. They're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think they're going to end up the number 1 seed at the end of the season. I think they might need a game or 2 more that they need to win, or the Raptors to lose for them to secure that spot. But they have won, I think they're going to win 60 games or more this season, which is a benchmark for a great team, is winning 60 games in a season. Giannis is a fresh candidate to the MVP conversation. Harden has been there before the last 2 years. I mean, the year that Russell Westbrook won it over him, because Russ had averaged a triple-double, and a lot of people were kind of upset that Russ won that year. They said this guy didn't deserve to win, but because of the triple-double thing, it was such a big deal, and it was the first time he did it. Now he's done it, what, 3 years in a row. He got it because of the storyline. This is the point that I'm making, where people said Harden should have won it that year, but instead Russ got it because of the triple-double thing. Then last year, Harden won it last year. He was great last year. Now this year he's in the conversation again. So there could be just a little bit of Harden hangover, I guess we can say, because this guy's already been in that conversation now going on 3 years straight, and Giannis is new to the conversation. And it's a question of the styles. And we'll get to that in one moment. Let's talk a little bit more about Giannis. This guy's leading the league in dunks. I think he probably has the highest percentage, field goal percentage around the rim of anybody in the NBA. He's just as unstoppable offensively as James Harden is. The difference is he doesn't isolate and go one-on-one as much as Harden. That's one thing. And number 2, he doesn't shoot as many threes as Harden, so he's not scoring as many points. And he probably doesn't have the ball in his hands as much. I look at the box scores, and I've seen some games of the Bucks. Giannis is okay with not being the center of the offense for stretches of a game, and that's fine because it works for them. They still have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They might have the best record in the whole NBA. So he doesn't need to dominate the ball like Harden does for his team to be successful, because they're the most successful team in the league. So he doesn't dominate the ball as much, but when he has the ball, I love watching him just dunk on dudes from angles that you wouldn't think the dunk was coming from, dunking with his left hand, right hand, on big guys, on guards, jumping from damn near the foul line, dunking on people, and people don't think he could take off from that far. So I love watching this guy. I really want to see them in the playoffs. I think they can get beaten by any of the top 3 teams in the East, whether that be, as of right now, Boston, Philly, or Toronto. And that's a different conversation. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in my playoff previews video, which people have been asking me about for each conference. But anyway, the styles, the contrast between these two guys. You got Giannis, who's, I guess you could say, a more team-oriented guy, because he doesn't dominate the ball like Harden. He's not doing all the isolation one-on-ones, just dribbling the air out of the ball, killing the grass, as some trainers like to say when a ball handler is dribbling all the time. Harden, with the dominant offensive style, having the ball in his hand all the time, like I guess like an Allen Iverson many years ago, but it's working. His team is winning, and he's been pretty damn unstoppable. And Iverson won the MVP that year when he was doing this, and he was the main topic of conversation. Who do I think? I'm gonna give you 2 answers here. First of all, who I think is MVP, and then who is actually going to win the MVP. And I've been going back and forth on this. Actually, I could give you 4 answers to this, because I can very well see how Giannis wins the MVP, simply because people can say his team had more wins. He's had just as great a season as Harden, hasn't scored as many points and didn't break as many statistical records, but has just as great a season, and he's had more team success. And Harden already won an MVP award, so people can, and y'all gotta understand, even though MVP is supposedly an objective award, it's subjective because it's voted on by people. People like me, people like you, who have that media vote, they're humans as well. And they know Harden has won an MVP already. So if he hadn't won one before, this would be an open and shut case. He would have to win it. But since he's already won one, people could say, all right, man, you already got one. Let's give it to Giannis this year. And some people will vote for that reason. They may not say it, but again, human nature, people will do this. So I could see Giannis winning it just off of that. Maybe some voters will admit it and some won't. And I can also see Harden winning just because of the stats that he's put up have been fucking incredible. I mean, nobody, again, as I said already, nobody has done this in a long time and been successful. The last person to do it and win the way that his team is winning, you would have to go back to Jordan 30 years ago, because even Kobe, that year he was scoring all those points, his team wasn't even that good. So at the same time, I wouldn't have a problem with Harden winning. Harden won, I couldn't be mad at it because of what he's done. And he's put his team on his back. If Giannis won, I'd be really happy just to see Giannis get that MVP. And I want to see what his team does in the playoffs. I also want to see what Houston does in the playoffs. So, damn, I haven't answered the question yet. Who is the MVP? Who's my pick for MVP this year? If I had a vote, I'm going to go with the Greek Freak. I'm going to give Giannis Antetokounmpo, a.k.a. the Greek Freak, the 2019 NBA MVP award. But I will not be mad if Harden gets it. Nobody else is in this conversation. I mean, some people have floated in and out. Jokic, Embiid, Paul George was having a great season before he got injured. He hurt his shoulder. He's been playing through it, but he hasn't been the same player since that injury. So ain't nobody else is even in the conversation. I think all the first and second place votes for MVP this year, I don't know how many media members are voting, but it should be all the votes should be going to Giannis and Harden. Nobody else should get a second place or a first place vote. No other player in the NBA. I can't even. No logical argument you can make for any other player being MVP number 1 or number 2 over either of these two guys. So we're gonna see who comes out with a ridiculous vote, because you know it's always one of those ridiculous votes that come in the MVP chase for first or second place. It shouldn't be anybody else. But I'm gonna go with Giannis. That's my pick. But I'm 51% Giannis, 49% Harden. So if Harden wins, I can see that case. I wouldn't need anybody to explain it to me. I've already made the case. And that's it. That's what I think. But I want to know what y'all think, because this is, as far as in this era, like the YouTube video era, there hasn't been any MVP debate like this one in a long time. So who do y'all think is going to win MVP? I think it's just these two guys. If any of you got somebody else that I forgot about, I don't think I did, name that person. But tell me who you think is going to win, or who you would pick. Both. All right, so here's what I want you to say. Who is going to win? Who you would pick if you had a vote? And then why? Those are 3 things. Who's going to win, who you would pick yourself, and why that pick is that pick. Because who you would pick and who's actually going to win may be 2 completely different things. And of course, as I just explained, I mean, it's human beings voting for this, so we'll see what it is. So that's that. Tomorrow, playoff previews. Not the only. I'm going to do those playoff previews. Then I'm going to do the NBA Finals. And that's it. Those are all my basketball commentary videos for the year. So that's that. Let's enjoy the playoffs, man. I love the NBA playoff times. Go hard and go home. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com. Nobody out there needs more information. What you need these days is a strategy, frameworks, processes, how to actually take all the information that's out there, all the knowledge and content that's out there, make sense of it, and actually produce a result, a tangible result. That's why I created the Game Group. It is my membership site where you will get tangible results for specific areas: business, personal development, basketball skill, and professional basketball. Choose your area of focus, and we have targeted, specified outcomes every single month, along with live trainings, the ability to contact me, have your work critiqued by me, and a whole lot of other stuff. The link and all the information is down in the description at DreAllDay.com/membership. Get in the Game Group if you're ready to get some results and not just a whole bunch of information. Let's do it. Work on your game.